confidence was something it is something I struggle with. But I was deeply insecure as a person because I don't think I had ever felt seen growing up. But hair always brought me in my flow state. And so I think it did bring a quiet confidence.
Hi, I'm Sally Christensen, the founder and CEO of Argent, a women's workwear brand. And this is Work Friends, a podcast for those who take their work, but not always themselves, seriously.
Work Friends.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you for listening to Work Friends. In just a few months, we've hosted conversations with women I deeply admire, and we're just getting started. I do have a favor to ask. If you could please take a minute right now to follow Work Friends on whatever platform you're listening on so you'll never miss an episode. And we'd especially love it if you could leave us a review or send an episode you've loved to a friend. Feel free to check out the show notes for more about Argent too. We're so excited to bring you more inspiring guests and candid conversations about careers you won't hear anywhere else. Your support of Work Friends and of Argent means everything to us. Thanks for listening. My guest today is Mara Roszak. She's a hairstylist whose clients include Emma Stone, Zoe Saldana, Michelle Yeoh, Natalie Portman, Kate Mara, and many other women whose names and work you definitely know. She's also the founder of Rose, an incredible line of clean hair care products that I am obsessed with. Mara's interest in hair started young, when she wanted to learn how to tame her frizz. But soon her journey would lead her to beauty school at the age of 16, to then working at the famed Chris McMillan salon, and eventually landing her own first celebrity client right after graduation, Sarah Michelle Gellar, circa the early-aughts, which of course we'll get into. In 2016, Mara opened the Mayor Salon in West Hollywood, and then in 2021 launched Rose, which is now sold in major retailers like Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Credo, among others. I've gotten to know Mara over the past couple of years as we've come to lean on each other for support in our individual journeys as founders and moms. I'm so happy to have you all join us for our latest conversation. Now on Work Friends, Mara Roszak. Do you want to laugh or cry today on this podcast episode?
Oh, boy.
Because I could go both ways.
Both will probably happen.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but we have been calling you our EGOT winner at the office because you're the first person to have done office hours, Work Friends, and now the podcast.
No way.
I think we'll have to bring you in for reworking the dress code to be like a true EGOT. Those are our 4 main franchises.
Oh, I'm honored. And it really happened so fast.
The honor is ours. It did happen very fast, but I'm clearly excited about what you're building, and I'm excited about you.
Well, same.
I'm so happy to have you here. It's been super fun to have a front row seat to all the things happening in your life, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, we like to kick things off with an icebreaker.
Okay.
And I feel like you'll have multiple, but what was your biggest oh no moment this week?
Oh, biggest oh no moment. Well, yeah, I feel like there have been several. I do think like as a brand founder, that just kind of becomes your normal. Like anything that can go wrong sort of does. So have had like a couple of oh no, like we didn't get that like before, but we shot that after, or like it's all a blur. Another is being late here today and, trying to download a new app to park. Oh no.
That's a good example of like the types of oh no moments I have every second. I want to start at the very beginning. I'd love to hear a bit about how you grew up and some early examples of work, not the work that you're doing now necessarily, but any work, like what the models were in your life.
Yeah. I grew up in a very, I would say, creative household, although it's not like there were constant arts and crafts. There was a lot of freedom. And I think I felt my mother is very, very creative. I describe her often as someone who is just like an artist through and through. She was a sculptor, and I later really put together how similar hairdressing is to sculpting. She sculpted stone, and she was really prolific, but gave it up really early on in her life. And then my dad was in music. No one was in the beauty world And it's interesting. I never saw her sculpt. She really left that in Manhattan. I was born in Manhattan. And 6 months later, my dad got a job offer in Los Angeles and we all moved. And so my sister got to see more of it because she's 10 years older than I am. And I never did. My mom sort of said when I moved to LA, we moved to Laurel Canyon, which is actually like a very creative environment. Joni Mitchell was our neighbor and lived up the street from the Houdini house. There was like a lot that happened in Laurel Canyon, right? There's like documentaries all about it, specifically music. But so when we moved there, she said she just sort of like lost her drive for it. And I don't know if it was second child or just a big move and not having her mentor, who is this famous sculptor in New York City. So I never got to see it, but I still very much felt it. And her sculptures were around the house, like sort of surrounded us always. And I actually have an incredible piece of hers. But career wasn't a huge focus. I wouldn't say there was like a ton of like visceral ambition. No one was pushing me very hard in general. But I think in some ways, looking back, you know, my sister had a very different experience and had more of an internal drive, which I obviously have, which I'm sure we'll get to. Mm-hmm. But I think academic drive. And I didn't have that, but we went to very different schools. She was in a private school that was quite academic. And I think by the time they got to me, it was sort of like, she'll be fine. And I actually think I probably would have done better in an environment that I was either more creative specifically and could have really, you know, inspired that and brought more of that out of me. I had to sort of find it on my own later, or potentially a smaller like academic environment that could have sort of helped to guide a little bit better too. But instead I was sort of like lost in no man's land in sort of a pretty, you know, basic public school that didn't have a lot of resources. And again, I was sort of like left to my own devices to kind of find it. And it wasn't really naturally brought out.
You got into hairdressing at a young age. Did you have any jobs before that? Was that your first job? Like, were you babysitting or did you do anything?
No, that was Starbucks. I worked at Starbucks.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Ahead of your time.
So many Frappuccinos down the street from where we are right now, actually.
That was early days, Starbucks.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I was
I hope 16, they give you some stock.
16. Oh, yeah. That would have been lovely. No, instead I was, you know, just reeked of Frappuccino mix. Huh. And it was interesting. It was interesting. I would take the metro down Wilshire Boulevard, if you know LA. And I wanted to work in like the trendy, cool Melrose, you know, Starbucks. But they were like, we've got a new one opening over at Wilshire and Union. I was like, I don't even know where that is. It was in between downtown, not even quite downtown. So MacArthur Park. It was an interesting, but that got me through beauty school. And I was 16.
Where did the interest in hair come from? And I've heard you talk about this, but I want you to share.
Yes. So it was clear I was creative at a, you know, probably 12, 13. I liked fashion a lot and I wasn't sure. I think I started like sketching a little bit. I think I took a fashion design class and like loved that. And just around puberty. So we're talking, well, I think around 10 years old, I got a perm. I begged my mom for a perm, got it, which is like insane. And it was a horrible reality, not the gorgeous like Shirley Temple curls I had envisioned, but this like frizzy mop, which most perms are. And they smell bad and they look bad. It's generally a bad idea. But I got one and my hair never was straight again. And it wasn't the perm's fault, but I, you know, within a year or two started to go through puberty and hair really changes. I mean, we know hormones can really change the texture of our hair, but it's like pretty remarkable. And I sort of inherited the hair I was always meant to have, which was quite frizzy. Had I just waited a little thick. Longer,
yeah,
I would have had it.
A lot of hair. Uh-huh.
Quite frizzy, quite curly, a lot of hair. And I was like surrounded by all of my friends seemed to have this like very glossy, beautiful, you know, what I thought was like ideal wash and go. They'd jump in that pool and at the pool parties and come out with like model like air dried hair. And I was like, I can't go in that. I can't swim. What am I going to do? I just flat ironed it forever. So I was determined, I think, as, you know, many young teens can be when they sort of want something, they figure it out. And, you know, there was like one product at the time, Frizzies, that was like available to me for my texture.
We all had it.
Gloppy and, you know, goopy, but really served a purpose at the time, and determined to get my hair to look a certain way. And at this point, my mom was a single mom. We, you know, were living in an apartment together. It wasn't like I could, you know, go and get my hair done or have it look the way that I had to figure it out. And I did with her like old, you know, 80s tools probably.
Well, I think the context has to be set for how different our childhoods were. We did not have access to the internet. We didn't have access to all the tools. We didn't have access to all the products. Like, it was such a simpler time.
Yeah, it's so true. And I wonder how I learned how to like hold a round brush even. I would see my mom blow dry her hair a little bit, but she wasn't like a beauty person. Like, my mom never spent a ton of time getting ready. She did it all herself. She still colors her hair and possibly cuts it, which, you know, a hairdresser's, you know, mother, who colors and cuts her own hair. But I definitely did absorb some of that, right? But she always wore her hair quite short. But I must have, you know, grasped how to generally do it and learned how to really like smooth my hair. Had a couple like horrible, you know, supercuts blowouts, or beauty school blowouts, but really, really was determined. And then from that point on, I would start like braiding my friend's hair at school. And then like the color came out, the bleach, the, you know, hair dyes, the manic panic. And everybody would sort of come over to my house because they saw that I had a natural interest. And I think like talent, I wouldn't go as far as to say talent, but like definitely a natural desire to like do it.
Wait, are you doing beauty school and you're still in?
No, this is like 13 years old.
No.
And I'm just like, we're going to bar mitzvahs every weekend. And showing up like we're the Spice Girls, you know, is very much that time.
Yeah.
And I think right around that age is really when I see it like with my niece, and sort of when you start to tune into, oh, this is how I think I want to, you know, see myself. But then there's a lot of trial and error there. I think I had like plucked off all my eyebrows, and my sister, who I said was 10 years older than me. She's already in college, and she comes back and she's like, what happened? I'm taking you to the MAC counter and teaching you how to like put your eyebrows back on, because this can't be. It's like you can't see yourself, but you really want to.
But again, like this time, it was so specific because we just were oftentimes in a room by ourselves.
Yes.
Just like with no
magazine
phone
cutouts.
Correct. No phone, maybe a TV, but like not always something on that you want to watch. You're really having to entertain yourself, and you found a passion.
Yes.
And that's like kind of the perfect time for it, because we were kind of locked in our rooms, just like doing whatever.
100%. And I would say generally it was a lonely time for me in a lot of ways too. My parents were getting a divorce right around this time. And there were a lot of transitions happening. My mom and I moved into an apartment, and my sister had already gone off to college. And I think I was a shy kid that didn't feel like I had anything I was particularly good at, or anyone that really saw me. And so I really think this hair thing became the thing I was good at really early, and that it actually like brought community around me. All my friends wanted to come over so I could do their hair and makeup and dress them. And I think it really brought me out of my shell and created a different environment.
I mean, definitely speaks to your work ethic too, when you're already doing this at 13, probably younger, and thinking like, and it turns into a career.
Right.
And like making and perfecting the skill. Talk about that transition from hobby to career.
It was still obviously a few years. So that's around 13. By maybe like 14, 15, it was like, could I intern somewhere? Again, I think it was still like, could it be fashion or what is it? And at the time, my cousin was dating. He was in a relationship. They, seemed so much older and more sophisticated, which they were. But I think they were only in their 20s at that point. But she had this thriving career in publicity. And I think at one point I was like 15, and my mom probably had reached out to her saying like, this summer, Mara's going to be around if you need any help or if anybody. And she brought me to set one time to sort of like assist on a photo shoot. And it was sort of to be there like for the stylist. But I don't think I did anything that day. It was sort of like, what's this kid, doing here? But they were very sweet to have me around. And I saw some behind the scenes. But I did end up in the hair and makeup room for a little bit and watched Chris McMillan glam up Sarah Michelle Gellar. Mm-hmm. So really it comes full circle.
Also, for those who don't know, Chris McMillan is iconic.
Yes.
And famously does, I think, Jennifer Aniston's hair. Is that right?
Yeah.
But I mean, has a longer client roster beyond that. So
yes. Yeah.
Great exposure at this age.
Great exposure. Mm-hmm. And I'm standing kind of just back there in the room. And they were also obviously sweet to let me in there. But I knew it was fun. But, I was just too young to really like absorb much of it. Mm-hmm. But shortly after that, a friend of mine was like, I'm getting my GED. This is it for me here at this school. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. You could do that. So I asked my mom, and I do remember her wrestling with it, right? I mean, it's a crazy concept. It's like she's going to get her GED, to go do what? And we did have a beauty school though across the street. And I remember going over there with her to kind of learn a little bit more about it. How young can you be to enter beauty school? And my mom worked, she was managing a kids' clothing store at the time. And it was in a mini mall that had a Carlton hair next door. And she like walked over on her break and basically went to the manager and was like, had a conversation with him. Am I crazy, basically, to let my daughter go to beauty school? And I guess his words were, the younger, the better. That was his advice.
Oh, I love this man.
I know. Where is he today? No idea who that man was, but the younger, the better. And she decided to do it, which I think was like, definitely challenged by my dad, who didn't really have like much of a say at that point, and was sort of like off doing his own thing. My sister, though, really had strong opinions. I'm sorry, Karen, for really just outing you here. But
we love you, Karen.
She was at NYU and had a very just different trajectory. And was kind of like, what are you thinking? And my mom, it was really a moment where I think she was clued in. And that wasn't always the case, but she tuned into something and was willing to let me do it. So I signed up, got my GED, and
congratulations,
signed up for beauty school. Mm-hmm. Marinella Beauty School. It's no longer there. Stripped down between a Sizzler and a 99-cent store, really glamorous. I wanted to go to the cool Vidal Sassoon, but it was too expensive and too far away. So I went to Marinello and worked at Starbucks during that year. It's about a year. Might have changed, but yeah, about a solid year.
And is that money paying for school? Your Starbucks money is paying for school?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many lessons here. I think following your passion is critically important. I do talk about, there's a book called Excellent Sheep, where a lot of times, and I think there's like an inordinate amount of pressure placed on kids that are growing up right now to have like the perfect resume, to land the perfect school, to land the perfect job, and then they get there and they're ultimately unhappy.
Yeah.
How important it is that we pursue our passions. And I actually think that that's more like fleeting than when we were kids. I think we were allowed a little bit more flexibility. The other thing that I feel like we don't always get right is like, yes, education is important and learning is important, but there are a lot of different ways to pursue that learning.
Absolutely. And I think, in beauty school, I was definitely the youngest by far. I would say I've always enjoyed being around people older than me, but I mean, I was with people who were really in their like second careers here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually what's so cool about cosmetology, hairdressing, whatever it is. There's so much room. There's, a ton of diversity. It is predominantly women. They're like, so you can do it anywhere. There's so much opportunity. And I loved that. And I mean, my beauty school was very much that. And not only did I get to connect with so many interesting characters that were enrolled at the same time, but clients that were coming in that area, a lot of these adorable, like older Jewish women who would come in for their $5 roller set. And I made a handful of like very sweet friends who were like grandparents, great grandparents even to me. These twins would come in every week that would just yell to each other from across the room because neither of them could really hear much at that point. But they were adorable and just, it was all walks of life and the conversations, as you've seen plenty of hairdressers in your life. You really talk. It's a vulnerable place to be, you think, in the chair with wet hair and you're sort of stuck there. And conversations, I learned so much about listening.
I think that's a testament to who you are and the longevity of the relationships that you have. Like you've had a lot of clients, 20-ish years at this point, maybe longer, which in this world and with what you do, that's pretty special and makes sense knowing you and who you are.
That's so nice.
Can you explain then when celebrity clients came into the mix? I think pretty famously, Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes, exactly. So going back, that same publicist, family friend, cousin's girlfriend, called me right after beauty school. At this point, my mom, I think, is a little side project going because she's working in this kid's clothing store and seeing all these little girls coming in for ballet slippers, and there were none offered. Mm-hmm. Where she worked. So she had this business idea to come up with these very cute little ballet slippers that she'd hand do and embellish, and they're very adorable. She doesn't do it anymore, but at the time, I think she dropped some off probably from one of her clients. And Nicole, my cousin's girlfriend, had said, how's Mara doing? And she was like, she's great. She's about to finish beauty school. And she was like, oh, that's so cool. Would she ever want to do some, work? Like, yeah. So she called me. I might have a job for her. She called me shortly after, right when I was graduating. Do you have your license? It's like I did just get my cosmetology license. I passed the, state board. And, but I had no driver's license, which, ended up being, I had to get one. I was like a late bloomer there. But she was like, okay, I have a job for you. It's to go and do Sarah Michelle Gellar's hair. I think this is 2003 for an event, for like a premiere, which I still don't understand why. How? But I said yes, of course. I had only done my friends at this point, some family members who were willing.
She was like one of the biggest stars in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Covers a magazine, everything.
Yeah.
Just, right after Buffy, maybe, movie star.
What's your confidence in your ability to like show up and make her happy with like what you're able to do? And where does imposter syndrome come into the mix?
Yeah, I have like this very strange quality. It's still within me where it's not that I don't get nervous, but I don't anticipate nerves. Like they happen in the moment, but I can't predict how I'm going to feel. And so I think I was able to like lead with a yes. There wasn't ever anything holding me back. But then I get there and I'm like, now I have to figure this out. Mm-hmm. And often do. I think we do as humans, like you're in it now. Mm-hmm. You've said yes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but it still is happening. Where I'm like, oh, I have to go. I know I have to go do this thing, but I can't put myself there. And I have no idea how it's all going to play out. So, but I said yes. And I got stuff together. I mean, I don't know what my kit looked like. I have no idea what tools I used. It had to have just been what I was using. And, maybe I went to where my mom would go buy her like bleach for her hair, one of the local beauty supply stores, and picked up a few bobby pins or something. And my mom drove me to Sarah's house and dropped me off in this gated community, which I had never, experienced like that part of town or and she is such a lovely human and the most warm and welcoming, and loves to take sort of young talent like under her wing and make them feel really comfortable. So I think even if I did have nerves, which I'm sure I did because I actually blocked out the entire experience, don't recall any moment of it, she clearly made me feel as comfortable as I possibly could because I, one, did a good job, and two, she asked for me back. So it went really well.
When we're that young, there's sort of two things that can happen and so almost simultaneously. And one is you have this like confidence and naivete.
Yes.
And that can really work some magic where you're like, of course, like, like you have a belief in yourself and some of those like qualities. Simultaneously, I feel like you can recognize that you are in the situation that you are. It's so intimidating and you've never done anything like this. And how on earth are you here? And it's a lot of nerves. Did you walk out knowing in that moment, like I delivered and this is my career path, or
I have no
recollection?
Right. I wish I did. I mean, I could show you the image. It's on the internet because the internet, we did have that.
Did you have confidence though in just like your ability at that point? Or are you like, do you recognize that you have something different or special?
That's a great question. I might have been able to identify that. Well, I really enjoyed it. I loved it so much. And of course, now, looking back at those images, I'm actually really still proud of them. I thought she looked she's a beautiful woman, but I actually thought her hair looked good. I'm not like, please never show me that, which is very like surprising to me.
Do you have please never show me images?
Probably. Confidence was something it is something I struggle with. Less now, definitely, than before. But I was deeply insecure as a person because I don't think I had ever felt seen growing up or like for many years to come. But hair always brought me in my flow state doing it. And so I think it did bring a quiet confidence in the process and sort of like ease. There was flow, a ton of flow, natural flow.
And you got invited back to not only do her hair.
Yeah.
But then that turns into other clients. Like, how does that even happen? Is it word of mouth?
Yeah.
Is she telling people?
Yes. So like that publicity firm represents all these other incredible people, actors predominantly. And I met another like junior publicist who was like only maybe a couple years older than me, starting her career. And she started getting new clients like Emma Stone, Mila Kunis.
Heard of them? Uh-huh.
Zoe Saldana.
Uh-huh.
And, this is like 17, 20 years ago. And they needed their hair done. So they called me. And, I was like, oh, well, Sarah likes her. And a couple of I was working with Halle Berry at the time. And, they were like, she's great. And they like her. So let's, book her.
Do you feel like you had to hustle to like build your client list at all, or the word of mouth just?
Yeah, it sort of did just flow. It was really lucky and really, really lucky. And I think quite uncommon.
I mean, your clients are incredible and A-listers and Academy Award winners. So to recap for those listening, you have done the hair for Emma Stone for both of her Oscars, as well as Brie Larson and Michelle Yeoh for theirs.
Yes.
Just for anyone who's aspiring for an Oscar. I'd love to hear what it means to just be a celebrity hairstylist and have that client list and go on press tours. Like, what does this career then turn into?
It's been such a joy and such a wild ride. I work incredibly hard, but I love it.
You work harder than anyone I know.
Oh my
like
God.
hands down.
That can't be true. But it did sort of like consume me. And so I say I'm very lucky and it's true, but I said yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent all of my 20s and 30 and still to this day.
And also this week.
And also still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I said yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was important. Balance, I don't know what that means, but it brings me a lot of joy a lot of the time. And I love the relationships so much and the creative freedom. And, hair is my art form and it can feel like that a lot of the time. Not always. Sometimes it's really just about what this, editorial shoot is, it's being told to me what to do or the client really wants this or whatever it is. And that can feel like less creative, but I'm still molding it and shaping it and making it what it is. It doesn't have to be my vision. I don't want that, all the time. And so it's been such a joy, but I travel a lot, have always traveled a ton. And so we go around the world and anytime I don't work on set. So I never got into the union. I never did film sets. I think I am a homebody at heart, although I travel a ton for work. There are shorter stints. So we'll go for 2 weeks. We'll go for 3 weeks max. Whereas, a shoot for a film could be 6 months or a show. Continuity, I'd be terrible at that. Having to recreate the same thing. That seems hard. Couldn't do it probably. So never got into that. But basically, anytime an actor would have to promote a show, a film, whether it be covers magazines or film premieres or press junkets, things like that, that's when I would get called. And it's sort of this like niche industry of its own.
I think what's so interesting that I've observed is, well, first of all, from my own experience, what we're doing with Argent, our goal is to give you clothes that you feel great in.
Yeah.
Your hair, your makeup, like when
Yes.
you have your full routine done,
Yeah.
you truly feel differently. Actually, the first time I felt like human post-election was when I had a blowout.
Yeah.
And like really felt pulled together and found like a sliver of hope again.
Yeah.
But you're giving so much more to people. Like it's confidence, a lot of times. I also think that like you're in a service role, but you've had such success that you're also your own like celebrity in a sense because you're so talented.
Oh, thank you.
But I think that it's so much more than also doing the hair. It's also having a relationship and a conversation and being like a trusted part of people's lives.
Yes.
It's just cool.
Thank you.
So yeah, there's no question there. But I do want to hear about like fast forward to 2016.
Yeah.
You made the decision to open Mayor Salon, which I was a client of before I knew you, which is
God, I forget that.
Mhm.
Yes.
And now you've started your own product line, Rose, which I am number one fan of, or competing with a lot of people to be number one fan of. But have you always had entrepreneurial ambitions?
Yes. I don't think I necessarily, framed it that way in my mind. But clearly now I know you really have it in you. Probably, or you don't. It's
We all have it in us.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we do it. But you have to really want it like so deeply in your bones in order to keep going at it.
It's literally the only way. That's like my number one piece of advice for anyone who's aspiring to start a company. You have to have such conviction in whatever your end goal is and belief in what you're building, or you will get knocked out and
Correct.
be done. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll just touch on the thing that you said the most, which really resonated, which I think, I love women. I love being surrounded by women. And I think, again, going back to the like not necessarily feeling seen in my life, which has been sort of my biggest challenge in some ways, is like sort of, I know that's so hard to grasp like what that means. But I think the reason I've loved hair and then being behind the chair even at salons, I just got to see more women, more people, and they weren't people who had access to like getting glammed up every time they left the house, right? It was, you and me who are, I mean,
Just
are
trying
like
to stay afloat.
trying to maybe have a moment of self-care. And this is where they go to really feel like a moment of, to see themselves. And I love seeing them. And I think that's sort of my gift is I really love that. And it's so much about working with the person than, I think this maybe more aggressive approach to hairdressing, which I think we've like seen throughout history, which is very like you get this structured kind of crazy thing, which can be so cool, but that person has to like really carry it. And so who are they? And I love that element of it. Who is this person in my chair? And so opening the salon, I started in a salon, which I know we didn't really talk much about, but I was an assistant at the salon and I would literally take 2 weeks off to go travel with Sarah Michelle Gellar. For my own career, my hairdresser boss would let me do that, which was quite crazy of him. But I loved being in the salon. And so I opened Mare, many years after in 2016, to your point. It was easier to control my schedule that way. I was traveling so much and it was really hard to kind of work at someone else's salon and be like, I gotta go, can you move all my clients? So it was a little easier to manage and control my schedule. And I have a partner there who really runs the day to day.
Also, what a hilarious backwards logic and to open for such a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll just open my own salon.
Yeah. If he listens to this, I'll be like, you don't clearly do this day to day. I do. It's true. Not easy for him, easy for me. But yes. And then starting Rose has really been the biggest gift and the most challenging thing I think I've ever done in my life. I was just talking about this with my husband, who's incredibly supportive. And, he was sort of reflecting on how rare it is to have an opportunity to sort of be, way later in a career and, later in life to sort of start something over. But, you can start at any time, which I think is very true. But to be 22 years into a career and start an entirely new one is rare and learn a completely new skill set. I didn't expect that. And it's been such a rare opportunity.
This is how we've gotten to know each other is through Rose. We were introduced when you were earlier on in the journey. And to me, it was so obvious that you're the exact right person to be doing this. And I feel like you're giving women access to something that you've become the expert on. Like it's about accessibility and introducing like a clean, like what I'd love it to hear from you actually, like what the gap in the market is and what you're going after. But just from a consumer perspective, I feel like what you were just talking about, loving women and wanting to give this to everyone is certainly part of the formula. But the products themselves are all I use.
Thank you.
And I just want more. So, I mean, tell us about the hole in the market that you found and what it's like to dream up new products and, having access now to this side of your brain, like it's like it's all new.
All new.
So
all new. Didn't have a computer.
No. That's great. Okay. Well, that's a whole other conversation because as we both know, when you start a company, the thing that you think you'll be doing, which is creating, is like 5 to 10% of your day and 90 plus is the shit that no one wants to hear about. But we will talk about
doing computer.
Doing computer. Okay.
Well, I'll just say it's such a testament to you that you when we connected, which like, thank God, because you've been just the greatest gift. And I mean, that's also the piece of this, right? I've met you, hopefully we would have anyway, but we met through this. And I've learned so much through you and through, a couple other incredible female founders, women in business who have picked up the phone, call me anytime, text me anytime. And I totally take them up on that. And it's just, it's the greatest gift. So thank you.
It's also mutual. I think as human beings, we look for, these qualities in one another. And when it like fills both cups, like that's the magic.
Totally.
And we're also in this new age where I feel like women, it is all boats rise with the tide. There's so much momentum. We're in a patriarchy. Like the deck is stacked against us.
Yeah.
And so I think there's recognition of that with our peer group in a way that's really quite refreshing.
Absolutely.
Because we need to see more and more women succeed.
Yes.
So
we really do.
Mm-hmm. So
we really do.
Tell me what the vision is for Rose.
I love seeing women in my chair, people I've never met before. And I can look at their hair, right? I mean, they're sort of there to say, I'm having a hard time with this. I can't get it to be what I want it to be. And I don't really know why. And I could see immediately. I could touch it. I could feel it. And I could know. And I could do that, if you pictures, you could just sit here with me and just show me, hundreds of pictures of hair. And I could identify what could help very easily. It comes very naturally to me. I mean, I think when you spend all of your time doing one thing, hopefully you get really good at it. And so I felt like I had this gift. And products have really always been the thing outside of my, comb and scissors. Products are like my right hand. I've seen how they transform people's hair, but I also saw how much confusion there was. And even as a hairdresser, I'm sent everything and was like, why would I ever need this product? I'm not even clear on how to use it. Can't imagine. So I kind of picked the best of the best. And it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I have one kit that I would sort of show up to do Sarah's hair with, or, Zoe's, and they all have very different hair types. But I need those products to be very reliable. And I looked at that kit and I thought, okay, this is a mix of all these different brands, kind of random, but they really work. And then I got pregnant. And, I have a son who's 5. And I just sort of had this natural instinct to kind of want to use cleaner products. And I felt like I could walk into a Credo or a department store and find really lovely skincare that felt amazing and worked. And same with color, lipsticks and color cosmetics. I felt like I could find that. And I was really curious because as a hairdresser, we're a little later to the game when it comes to clean because we want efficacious. We want it to perform, and never really expected the clean beauty market to sort of provide that for hair. And it turns out it hadn't been because I bought everything and was like, this isn't working on my hair. And I'm a pretty good case study. I mean, I have my frizzy. I blew it out today for you. But, thick, coarse, frizzy, kind of troublesome to some degree. And I need, but with the right products, it can look really amazing. And so I knew what I needed them to do, but I could not find it. And I had been thinking up Rose. It wasn't the name. I didn't have a name, but it was essentially products that would work with someone's hair. And the products should be very versatile. They should work across multiple hair types, not just like, you have fine hair, this is a product for you. Because I've seen how products can really work across a wide range of different textures and types, and how much easier it could be to do your own hair once you left my chair. And so Rose is really that. But I also wanted to bring the professional element. I mean, obviously my expertise poured into the formulations, but also in terms of distribution, having pros use it, because I know how, a pro is never going to pick up a product that they don't fully get behind. And they're sort of there to be like, no, this isn't good, And so I really wanted to make sure that we built a professional brand that worked at the professional level, but bringing ease of use and just beautiful, clean products, formulations to clients' hair.
I know that we are friends, but like really it is consistent. Anyone that I introduce this product to is obsessed with it. You're right. It's all hair types. It's like the product that everyone's been waiting their entire lives for. And it feels like the market is so saturated, but you came in with such a like sharp lens on what you wanted to do. And you're actually innovating the product and putting something out there that works. I mean, I'm case study. I've used every hair product in the books and I'll just, yeah. Anyway, so starting a company is impossibly hard. Have you experienced any micro failures on this journey?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's leave it at that. Maybe to make it more specific, we can talk about fundraising because we've both been through fundraising.
Yeah.
Not to say that we have failed, but I think that we have been failed.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But you have had a lot of success. And I think it's because, you know, your thesis is super compelling. Your product's compelling. You as a founder are compelling.
And you were incredibly helpful in that.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. That is my wisdom coming into play for sure. But I have conviction in what you're building. And when I do, it's like, it's obvious that money should follow that.
It's so cool.
But
it's so cool.
Let's talk about the hardest part of being a female founder and
oh my God,
fundraising.
Yeah.
How did you even get started with that?
Yeah. Well, truly, I met you and you told me what to do. It was a really, really scary thing to begin with. I've never asked for anything and it felt like an ask. And in the beginning, it sort of is. And it felt so vulnerable and so uncomfortable. And I think that's because I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. I've, done well for myself. I had, had a successful career already. I poured my savings into Rose to start it. And yet it was still so deeply uncomfortable to talk about money. I never had in my whole life long. And so when I, kind of put this deck together, which was like as painful of a process, by the way.
Yeah.
Which like now doesn't really, I don't know, maybe it matters. People might look at it, but ultimately they want to meet you and know you and see that you have conviction in what you're doing. And so, I mean, I think I tried to get as far as I could on my own. And, that was a short-lived, right? I mean, maybe a year and a half.
Yep.
Getting a couple products made on my own, I was able to do and start distributing it. But there's only like so far you can really get before taking on some capital. And then I did a friends and family round and you were really helpful with that. And then I reached out to my, network again, which was really uncomfortable. But, a lot of people are savvy and also knew that, I was hardworking and I think, liked the couple of products that I had and understood the vision. I mean, some people really understood it very, very quickly and easily. And I got better and better at pitching it. Mm-hmm. A lot of practice, but a lot of no's, a ton of no's. And that was also hard, I think, because I just hadn't had that. I was sort of, at the top of my career on this one side of the business and sort of starting over, like I said, on this other venture that was so personal. And, but what I will say is it has probably been the most rewarding part to date. I mean, obviously creating beautiful products is, but on the other side, the people who showed up and said yes. I mean, even just the people who took the call and said no, but that were kind in the process. Mm-hmm. But especially the people that said yes and the support that I've seen from my community of other artists that I've grown up in this career with.
Yeah.
Of my clients who were like, yes.
Yep.
I mean.
Yes. I think the resilience piece is pretty important where on this journey, it's not just with the fundraising, it's with everything that you're going to hear so many no's.
Yeah.
And I share this quality. I hate asking for stuff.
Yeah.
We have to ask for things. We're not doing our jobs if we don't ask for things. And recognizing or getting to a headspace where having someone involved is like a gift for them and there's upside for them.
Yes.
Just as much as it's a gift to you, and getting there,
Yes.
I think is pretty important.
And you repeating that to me over and over and over again was really helpful. And I've only, had the privilege of getting to do that now for a couple of people that are kind of just starting their journeys. And I can't wait to dedicate more time to that. I hope that I get to, because I think the gift you gave me and learning that I actually held more value in what I was creating and building. And I think that's really ultimately the greatest lesson.
Yes.
Is to value yourself, which women, as we know, have the hardest time doing.
But it's also reinforced in this process. There is no HR. There's nothing protecting you. It is the wild, wild west. We all know the statistics. It's like 2% of VC funding goes to female-founded ventures. Yeah. We have to get ideas so much further. We have to prove an overwhelming amount of proof of concept and product market fit. And it's all bullshit. And I think that's the important thing to know. And it really does require you to have the thickest skin and to take the no's and the mistreatment or the like reduced check sizes as fuel. And the yeses, I could sit here and list off like every single investor that we've had for the last 10 years by name, you know, and how much that every single penny has meant. And the proof is in the pudding. Now look at your trajectory that you're on.
It's incredible.
Okay, so I'd love to end this with some advice, because I know that those listening that are aspiring to be hairstylists will want to hear from you. And those listening who aspiring to start beauty brands will also want to hear from you. So whatever wisdom that you'd like to impart.
Sure. I think it's what we just touched on, the value piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to feel and know. And I think as an artist in my career, as much luck and success as I had, there were so many people that were there. The industry is sort of set up to just sort of squash any ounce of like confidence or value that you've sort of like found. And now sitting in this seat, one as a founder, having built something that does have value, and being an artist and learning how much the artistry and the craft means to what I'm building, how much that background that I poured my life into helps this business today. And my peers, maybe they won't, build their own brands. Maybe that's not what they want to do. And that's great and okay. They are so valuable to all the beauty brands, hair brands that are out there. And I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that until now. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes. So having their support means the world. And it's had me look at my career through a different lens. And I wish I had felt it more throughout the process.
Yeah, I think that concept of understanding your power and not giving it away is critically important in starting a business. Like if I started a second business, I would do a lot differently. And I think that's the case for all of us. And for women specifically, I think this happens more often, that we're just too quick to give up more than we need to.
Yeah.
And that extends beyond starting a company, of course. I also think, going back to the theme of like asking for something, I think of young you and I think of you now and how women that have had the success that you have had do want to pay it forward. And the community that you're in is so special, of hairstylists and those in the beauty industry. But I think the best, most accomplished women and men want to carve out time for that next generation of talent.
Yeah.
And those that express desire to be in the room, to work hard, to get the experience. That's where the asking for something is important, and knowing what to ask for and who to ask and when to ask it, and just being bold and being ready for the no's because they're going to come. But
that's right.
Knowing that ultimately, like, that's what's going to set you apart and give you a leg up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to be vulnerable, but I do think it kind of coming from that place with it is also okay. I don't know if it sort of this expectation versus a genuine ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sort of, they're two different things, I think.
Yes.
It's okay maybe to understand your value and hold that while being curious and interested to understand and learn. Because I think I see that too, where there are expectations, and those can also be really hard. One to, I think, meet as, someone building anything or as like a person, in any kind of powerful position. It's obviously hard to meet expectations all the time, your own, other people's. But I think that there is a way to have that conversation and have it feel like a real learning.
Okay, we're going to end with a game of Would You Rather, my favorite part of the podcast. Would you rather burn the midnight oil or start your day before sunrise?
Ooh.
Neither.
I would rather start my day before sunrise.
But you end up burning the midnight oil.
Right. Or doing both. Yeah.
Would you rather go back to school to learn a new skill or teach what you know to a class of newcomers?
I'd rather teach.
Love. Would you rather only answer emails with emojis or only answer calls with FaceTime?
Oh, maybe emojis.
Oh, okay.
No one's got to see this all the time,
Yeah, I understand. Would you rather start a career as a hairstylist in the early aughts or in the present day?
Oh, early-aughts, oldie.
Big time, yeah. Would you rather dress up or dress down for work?
Down.
You failed that question.
Sorry.
Would you? I'm just kidding. Dress down, but in argent, because you can dress argent down.
Correct.
Would you rather accidentally leave your mic unmuted or your camera on?
Both are truly my worst nightmare. My worst nightmare. The amount of times I'm peeing on calls is crazy. And actually on Zoom, I don't know how to turn my camera off before I get on it. So sometimes I'm getting on it and I'm peeing. And I got to quickly get that camera off before anyone sees that.
Especially as a pregnant woman.
Exactly.
Would you rather work a whirlwind press tour or whirlwind award season?
Oh, I'm doing both right now.
Of course you are.
Gosh, I don't know how to answer that. Press tour?
Have to. Press tour, okay.
Would you get to see the world and go have great meals. And although it's exhausting and maybe you don't have a meal, I don't know. Press tour.
Would you rather a client surprise you with a 6-inch hair chop or a new bleached color?
Hair chop.
Would you rather write a great piece of feedback or receive a great piece of feedback?
Oh, selfishly receive. But I'm learning how to give more compliments. Not because I don't think them, but because I don't think I ever shared it. So I don't know.
Oh, it's the greatest gift you can give.
Yeah.
Just tell people what you see when it's positive.
Totally.
But of course, we like to receive good feedback.
Yeah.
Mara, you have become one of my closest friends. You are the best.
I love you.
Thank you for being here. I love you too. And with that, we're going to go to dinner.
Can't wait. Eat some pasta.
Thanks for listening to Work Friends, a podcast from Argent. Listen and follow on all podcast platforms and subscribe to the Argent YouTube channel for more clips and bonus content. Plus, email your work questions and dilemmas at workfriends@argentwork.com for a chance to have one of our amazing guests weigh in with advice. I'm Sally Christensen, and we'll see you next time. Work Friends. Work Friends is produced by Gina Marinelli with editing by Justin Kropp. Our theme music is by Karina De Piano and Melanie Naima.